Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back with some more MBTI. Today we're going to be looking inside the mind of Kanye West. I like looking into interesting people's minds, and the hard part of this one is figuring out an interview where it's not too interesting. So we're going to be dealing with the Joe Rogan podcast interview from a few years back. Before we begin, we're going to look at the system because you've not seen MBTI done quite the way that I do it. I have changed definitions and the way that things work. This chart is for ease of access, and we ask these questions. First off, are you focused on things or ideas? Is it the things that you can actually touch, things and events that have actually happened from now into the past, or is it ideas and concepts from now into the future? Are you searching for new ones or old ones? If you're dealing with ideas, is it the best idea? If you're dealing with things, is it the best thing? Then you're looking for the old ones. You're looking through all the new ones for the old ones. Do you do that for yourself or for others? Self does not mean selfish. It means that you use it first and then you give it away. And tribe means that you give it away and you derive your pleasure from that. Are you rigid or flexible? Is it my way or the highway? Or is it we're going to flex around other people? And are you direct or informative? Do you tell the whole story in one chunk and stop? Or do you tell the story several times and chase off after rabbit holes along the way, over explaining? All of these things added together help us to identify things within ourselves, patterns of behavior, why we make choices the way that we do, what we can do to improve ourselves. We look in others for examples for ourselves. So if we see Kanye doing something that we identify with, we can maybe understand the thought pattern behind that. And by understanding that thought pattern, we can learn to integrate that into ourselves to strengthen our foundation and become better people. That's the goal of this. This is not a medical diagnosis. I am not a medical doctor, and I have no desire to be one. This is simply a self-help program, foundation, so that you can fix you in the way that you want to be fixed. With all that being said, we're going to dive into the interview with Joe Rogan podcast. We are 14 minutes in because I like to let the guests get good and comfortable. This is not antagonistic. Kanye is comfortable in this situation, and he's not being too weird. Like, that's sometimes a thing. And so let's dig in and see what we got.
Can you explain what you're talking about with Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee? Like, what? I lost you there.
Okay, so Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee were both murdered.
Well,
that is an idea. That is not necessarily dealing with historical fact, right? That is dealing with the idea behind that.
Brandon Lee.
And that is probably a singular idea as opposed to many ideas.
He died in an accident on a movie set.
Yeah.
Do you think it was a murder?
I felt
That's a conspiracy, right? The conspiracy was that the Chinese triad killed him the same way they killed Bruce, but the coroner's report was that Bruce died from a reaction to a medication, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I think about that anytime I go to the hospital. I'm very, I'm mindful.
That's a box, right? I think of that every time I go to the hospital as definitely putting idea in box. Right?
Well, that's
not necessarily experience, probably idea.
You think about like Bob Marley, they didn't just JFK or MLK him. There's like reports that it was something in his toe or
He had cancer, right? I believe he had skin cancer.
yeah. Like I went to go. I got a shot in my hand because just from texting and stuff, my thumb was like hurt. And then I
Damn,
posted.
you text so much you hurt your thumb.
Absolutely, just texting way too much. So I post a picture of the screen at the hospital, and then I was asked to take it down.
By who?
People just call me. I'm forgetting exactly who asked me, but it.
What? Like, I don't understand how the conversation got there from where it was.
It was like they got to my management, they got to this.
This is they in the box. They is the idea here. Okay. They is the idea. It is the box from what I'm seeing. So that's why he was making the jump from there to here, is because they are in charge of all the things. So that is the idea supported by the things, and it seems to be extremely externally focused. We'll see.
And he said, take that picture down. Like the hospital, it was in the weirdest place, you know. So
What did they not like about the picture?
I think it might have had some information on it that they didn't want to go out.
That is detail resistant, right? I don't even know what was in the picture that got so much attention, right? That's some tribe pushback, because the tribe thought that was important. You don't, and that is detail adverse, right? That's like, no, don't even bring me your evidence on this one.
Wow, like an address or something like
Okay.
that. And it's just like, but I don't want to go down these rabbit holes. I'm just saying, like, Michael
Okay, so rabbit holes.
Jackson not waking up one day, Prince not waking up one day, Bruce and Brandon Lee, Bob Marley, all of these things have crossed my mind.
Okay, so this is the SE. This is y'all. Okay, this one's fun. So he's got the idea of they, right? That's NI, baby. He's got the SE right here. He's bringing all these examples, but they are incomplete examples. They are not held together by logic. This is fun.
Fine, you know,
And he's kind of defensive over them.
as I'm going and saying, I need to innovate what these contracts are, not just for me, but for all artists. It's not about me getting
External focus.
my master's back.
Like, I take people at their words when they repeatedly say things that lean in that direction, right? Everybody's like, nobody's ever externally focused. And that's some bullshit. I'm not. I'm an I. But my wife is. She's an E. So
It's about freedom. And I say on a new song, I say, if I would put myself in harm's way,
that's about an idea. It's about the singular idea, not many, right? Freedom is an idea. You can have multiple ideas. They hold separate places. And when you get information, you sort them into that box. Everything fits into these boxes, though. They is a box. Freedom, it's a box. It's a different box, but it's a box. It's completely different than the they box. You are either in the they box or the freedom box. So that's very much idea based. Very much.
to get my masters, they would put themselves in harm's way to stay the master. And there's a complete parallel to the way the music industry works and the way the world currently works, and the influence that America has on other countries and the way governments work. The influence and the way government and the way people in power, in control, deal with, disaster relief, deal with Haiti, deal with the Bahamas. Like, where is the money going? Why aren't things being built? And this concept of...
And that fits into the they box. That fits into the they box. He just brought all of these examples, none of them complete, none of them understood, for the they box, right? They are not doing this correctly. That's his they box.
of money, right? I asked myself this. I asked someone a week ago, like, how much is America in debt? And they were like, this many trillion. And
This
then
many.
I asked a rhetorical question.
Like, I asked this question, and I don't remember what the answer was. It was this many million. Trillion, right?
But the dumbest question I've ever asked myself, I said, well, how much does the Earth cost? Think
It's
about
not a bad question.
But
How much is the Earth worth?
Yeah,
right
what
now?
is the Earth
Everything.
worth?
All
yeah.
the things on Earth.
Yeah, and it's saying we can't buy it. We couldn't make enough money to buy the Earth, right? So that means we made money. So if money...
This is funny.
Money.
Okay, here's where we're at. This is what I'm looking at. Questions down below, right? So we're looking heavy ideas to me. We're looking heavy old to me. He seems to be tribe-centric. The rigid and flexible, I'm a little in debate about, but he is definitely running on the informative side, right? This entire thing has been pretty much just him extrapolating on one question from a while ago. So this is, I've got everything except rigid or flexible. So I'm going to be looking specifically for that. Is it my way or the highway, or is it more, let's accommodate all of these people? I'm not getting a very clear anything on that, but it does seem to be very ideas, right? He seems to be putting everything into the they box, and it's not they as a specific they, but them as the concept of they. And so he's putting everybody into this they box. He has his freedom box that is not nearly as important as the they box. All of his support, bringing up all of the evidence, none of it complete, none of it necessarily accurate. So that's more SE than SI. SI is all about organization and recalling the stats. And SE is more about, hey, these stats exist. This seems to be more of that than the SI. So that leads me into ideas. It leads me into old. It leads me towards tribe. He has made several references so far of being externally motivated, and that is a possibility. He has made I statements, but they are fewer. Most of the focus seems to be either on pleasing or pushing back against the tribe, as opposed to fulfilling self. So let's go ahead and get some more and see what's up. I want
Is the key to all people's happiness, and will solve everything, and everyone's doing things for money. Let's just make more money. But it's not about making more money. It's about keeping poor people poor and rich people rich, and keeping people in their place. And right now, we're experiencing the fall of Rome, or the Titanic has now hit a glacier. And there's people who would prefer to go down with the Titanic than to get on a lifeboat, because they don't want to get seawater on their dress or on their nice outfit. The people are so programmed and brainwashed into classism and protectionism that
and again, this is some tribe, right? This is tribe focus. He is very much concerned with what the tribe is thinking about these things.
It's difficult for people to embrace innovation and
that is some flexibility. Now, one of the ways of demonstrating the flexibility is the ability to bring into the argument the other point of view, right? This is why they feel this way. This is why they feel this way. Here are their explanations for it, right? That is building in the flexibility of, I am taking this into consideration before I make my judgment. Whereas if you're more of a control, that's there, but it doesn't really matter, right? They have their reasons, but here's my reason. Here's what I think about this situation. This is the way. I don't really care about what you have to say about it, right? So that's more flexible than it is control.
Less, it has a tag on it that's got a name brand connected to it that says, with this innovation, you will be better than the person, you'll be better than your next door neighbor. You know, when I made Sunday service, I completely stopped rapping because I didn't know how to rap for God. You know, all my raps always had like, like nasty jokes on it. And then, you know, when I went to the hospital, I know you want to get into this. When I went to the hospital in 2016, I wrote Start a Church in Calabasas. And as we left from 2018 going into 2019, I said, I'm not going to let one Sunday go by without starting this church. And there's people who said it wasn't a church and different things, but to start a ministry, I'm like the little drummer boy where I'm saying, you know, this is all I got to bring, my drum. I might not be well versed in the word, but I know how to make music, and I know how to put this choir together, and all things can be made good for God. So it like quickly became the best choir of all time because all the best singers moved to California. And now, but a lot of them grew up in the church, so it's like the opportunity for them to actually get paid singing for God. Because
That seems to be a flex too. That seems to be him accommodating this other way of doing this thing, right? It's establishing his own way, but it is establishing his own way in an accommodating way, taking into account this reasoning of these people grew up in the choir, right? Or the reasoning of I've never done this before, right? It seems to be somewhat of a flexibility. I'm still looking for something that's a little bit more definitive either way, but we're not getting a whole lot of like hard-nosed control. Seems to be like his establishing in the church, even like the worship that he was doing. I'm not going to try and put a whole church on him, but like it seems to be that was his way of accommodating other people into something.
because I would be funding it, and that for me was like a tithe for me to fund Sunday service. And I was 4 months in before I gave my life to God. Like I wasn't saved. It's just I had a calling saying, just go make this church. And the whole thing, the comparison to this church to me going and saying, okay, why am I running for president, is to be in service, not service to my own ego. You know, I feel like God says to me, like, haven't I given you enough? And I gave you an ego that helped you overcome all these, you know, roadblocks and smoke screens and people telling you what you can't do. Now you need to realize when you're doing things for your ego and when you're doing things for me. This is like God, what I feel God is saying to me. Because it really irritates me when people say, God told me to tell you. So I'm very like mindful with this kind of word.
That seems to be some flexing too, right? All I'm getting really is some slight flexing around the tribe. Now he's tribe centered, so of course there's going to be a little bit of flexing there, but like there's no real overriding my control on this. So I'm going to go ahead and say that we're dealing with flexibility. We're going to do the transition. We're going to talk about the chart. We're going to go through it real quick. He seems to be things, right? So that's going to put he seems to be ideas. That's going to put us on the right-hand side of the screen. He seems to be new. So that's going to put us into the third column. He seems to be tribe. That's going to put us on the bottom. He seems to be flexible. So that is going to be an ENFP. And I'm going to swap that over so we can talk about this last piece. This is one of those parts that really makes the system that we're doing here different from the other systems that you might have seen. This third slot going down has to deal with how you give information back, right? The first two slots are how you take in information. The second two slots are really how you give it back and the substance behind it. And so if you are internally focused, that is introverted in that slot, that means that you are direct. You are holding most of the information back as opposed to freely just spilling it out. If you are informative, that is the extroverted form of the function. So it is, you just chase the rabbit holes like our friend Mr. Kanye does. So that means that he is going to be an ENFP on the left-hand side of the screen, not an alternate. And so his third slot is going to be extroverted. That makes him informative. This is his primary concern is going to be the future. Wait, this is the wrong chart. 1 second. He is an ENFJ, not an ENFP. I did that wrong coming off of the chart. So I need to close that one off and turn that one around. No. ENFJ, right there. All right. Yes, this is the correct one. Okay, so what he is going to be concerned about here, it's still going to be it's still going to be a regular one and not an alternative. But he is an ENFJ. It's going to be very much concerned about the ethics of the tribe. Now, your tribe is who you have chosen to be the tribe, not necessarily everyone. It's going to be without even thinking about it and not really understanding what you're doing, you're going to absorb other people's feelings. You're going to automatically adjust around other people's feelings. And you're going to be very much concerned about how people are going to feel going into the future. If I do this, how will people feel about it? And about the ethics of the situation according to your tribe, whoever you have chosen to be your tribe. He's going to feel responsible for the best idea. Now, the parent slot is where you feel responsible for taking control, for making sure that people understand, right? You push very hard in this spot. And for him, that is going to be the best spot, the best box. He is talking about the they, because to him, that is the most important thing. There's only one idea, right? There's a couple of other one ideas, but they're not as important as this one idea. And it's not a broad spectrum of ideas. It's this idea in particular. They is the idea in particular. The third eye is the part where you see forward, but it's also the part where you get defensive over. So for him, that is going to be the actual experiences. Now, does he know them? Probably not. Is he aware they exist? Yes. And he is very much worried about making sure everybody knows these things exist, even if he doesn't have all of the supporting data. He doesn't have the supporting data because of his throat. The throat is what you misinterpret and misrepresent. So that for him is going to be his logic. His logic is not going to be consistent. Like, there will be fallacies in the logical chain. There will be things that don't actually make up yes, no, as it moves forward. And that's him misunderstanding the situation or the circumstances or the particular idea, especially misunderstanding the examples that are not yet complete. The heart is what you really want to do. It is where you will feel the most fulfilled in your life. And for him, that is his feelings. It has him standing in his morals, right? As opposed to the ethics of the tribe. He has the ethics of the tribe. Now he is incorporating that into himself, and he wants to stand here. If he is doing that correctly, he's going to feel great about it. But if he is misguided in that and missing some of the evidence that we're about to get to, that's where it's really going to get him, right? He started this church. He's 4 months in before he makes the commitment to God. Now, we're not going to get into the commitment part. It's the delay there that's the problem, right? He's not sure about the morals. He's not sure about the ethics. He's not sure about the logic choices. He's not sure about the examples. And that's really going to bite him in the butt. What feeds them morals is having all of the ideas, right? So the solar plexus feeds into the heart. The heart is what you want to do. The solar plexus is what allows that to happen. That's going to need to be taking in more ideas instead of the idea, right? You're going to have to ingest more ideas from other people, their foresight, their possibilities. That's what you need to be focusing on, absorbing from other people, and then discerning the best stuff by how you feel. The sacral is the trickster energy. It is the sexual energy. It is where you unintentionally, intentionally choose the wrong thing. Nobody ever says, hey, I'm going to do the wrong thing, but people do it all the time. And it's normally because of this slot and the one below it. This one is where you get tripped up, and for him, that is going to be the details of the situation, right? The SI is the organization. It is the things that have actually happened and are sorted into the appropriate boxes. He has all of these examples, but none of them are complete because he is missing the SI completely. This part is just not happening, and he is intentionally choosing that. He is missing those ideas. He is definitely not taking in other people's thoughts. We're about to get to that. And so that is causing him to not have the actual things that have happened in the past. And that's where the major trip up is going to come for him. Not understanding what actually has happened in the past. And then finally, the base is the part that you just mess up. Most of the energy that you get here is the wrong energy, and it is very easy to get trapped in that. And that is, for him, other people's thoughts. It's not just that he doesn't get people's thoughts. It's that he gets mostly the wrong thoughts. Now, that's because he's not asking what they're actually thinking. He is reading into what he thinks that they're thinking. And so communication plays a large part in growing and strengthening your TE, especially in a base slot or a sacral slot, because those two slots are really about not, right? And so if you're not understanding the other people's thoughts, the TE, you're really just going to mess everything up. And if you can get to where you are actually understanding it, what other people are thinking about what has actually happened, you're going to be in a much firmer situation. If any of this sounds like it might be something that you identify with, and if these patterns are thought of something that you want to work on, I have a playlist called the Infinite Integrations Playlist, where we talk about how you can, through prayer, fasting, and meditation, learn to build these things up in yourself. It is a framework with which to build on how you want to fix you. I'm not here to fix you. I have no right to even try. I'm here to help you by giving you the tools to fix you in the way that you want to fix you. I also have another playlist called the MBTI part, because not everybody prays, fasts, and meditates, and that's okay too. The scientific parts are on that playlist. I also have a video that is devoted just to the ENFJs, where we walk through the stack down and then back up, so that you can learn to integrate that into yourself. So if you identify with Kanye and the examples we have had, this might be something that you would want to check out. Now we're going to look for confirmations. We're going to look for a few more minutes going forward for the FE, right? Is he absorbing without even really thinking about it the feelings of the tribe? Does he then sort those feelings into the box? Is he getting defensive over the actual examples of what happened, even if it's not complete? And is he showing logic flaw in his conversation, right? The TI throat is going to be misunderstanding the logic and misrepresenting the logic of your personal thoughts. We're also going to look to see if he is missing the thoughts of other people and whether or not he is missing the organization of what has actually happened from here into the past. Let's get into some more examples.
I'm saying I have a feeling that that's what God is saying, for me to be in service. So the ultimate service position is leader of the free world, to be the president of the United States. It's sometimes just...
That is definitely a box, right?
To me,
that is a one idea, and he is feeling responsible for enacting the one idea here. Leader of the free world, me as the leader of the free world, is definitely a one idea.
On Twitter, I say I want all the smoke. I want all the problems, because the problems are the opportunities. There's an opportunity to solve things, and
getting defensive over the things, right?
Kurzweil.
That is looking for a confirmation for that, but
he created the keyboard Kurzweil. He has this video that Mark Romanek, this director that shot 99 Problems for Jay-Z, which is like my favorite, maybe like top 5 or top 2 favorite videos of all time. He also did Closer for Trent Reznor, and I just grew up on MTV in the 90s, and I love Mark Romanek videos, but he would share, he'd share little bits and pieces. And I remember Ray Kurzweil talking about the ability for us to have a utopia, but us being led by the least noble and the most greedy. But if
utopia is actually hell, so I don't know if he finished reading those thoughts.
Someone, or when someone gets in a position of leadership that is in service to God and in service to people, period, but immediately the American people. I had this joke I was saying, like, man, no one outside of our country should be able to see these debates. This is family business right here. This is only for America to see. We can't let anyone else.
Y'all don't look at my evidence here, right? This an SE. That's getting defensive over the physical things.
Outside the country see it. But to be in service. So I stepped away already from my rap career for a year and served God every week, sometimes twice a week, 3 times a week, never missed a Sunday until COVID. And this is the thing, there were people inside of the church stealing, doing different things, trying to just take them, and God still provided a way for us to.
That is misunderstanding the intentions of the tribe, is misunderstanding their thoughts, right? Like, he's got their feelings, he's making them feel good, he's missing their thoughts, he's not even concerned about it. So there's people that are thinking of theft and are doing it. There are people who are thinking of fraud and doing it. So, like, fraud's not a feeling, it's a thought. You're missing the thought. The organization intentionally choosing the wrong thing. The people that you're bringing into the organization in places of trust, you're not choosing the correct spot, right? That is because you're missing the thoughts. But that is what is happening. That's a pretty good confirmation, right? I'm looking for the lower end confirmations on that. So that was a good
Keep that boat afloat. We never missed a service. And then one of my pastors, Pastor Adam, who is the way he preaches is called expository. It's like 1-to-1 by the word. I like all different kind of preachers, but there's some type of preachers, they get up, they have the Bible in their hand, then they close the Bible, and then they just talk for 2 hours. And some do have anointing, but the expository preachers go line for line. And for me, it's like I come from entertainment.
If you're unaware, I'm wrapping up my Bible study. It is a little bit unconventional. It is for everyone, but it is not for everyone. And if your feelings don't easily get hurt and you're looking for alternative explanations, my unconventional Bible study might be the way to go with it.
I got so much sauce. I don't need no sauce on the word. I need the word to be solid food.
And the reason I say that is because we went through line by line through most of the Bible, not all of it, for reasons that become apparent as we go through it. But for most of it, we went through on a line-for-line basis and went back and looked at words and all of those things. So I have done this in a very literal way.
That I can understand exactly what God was saying to me through the King James Version, through this, through this translation or the English Standard Version. So Pastor Adams was coming by my spot. I got this 300-acre spot in Calabasas that we had a little house in that I was recording. And I would play this music, these chords that I love. They're almost like monk-like. And that's going to go into something we'll talk about later because I'm building a monastery that will then be the future of monasteries. It's like full sustainable energy. Now, he says to me,
that is a very ambitious goals to enact your morals in such a manner. Now, he is doing that through the ethics of the tribe that he has chosen, but that is definitely what he is trying to do there, is fulfill his moral feeling there. Right? I am going to make this thing that is morally perfect. That's what he just said. I'm going to go ahead and take this as good confirmation. I don't like to take too much from the podcast that we do. I try to do podcasts that have little exposure. Joe Rogan is definitely not that, but this was a fairly good bet that Kanye wouldn't get too crazy. But as the show goes on, he might get a little bit crazier. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. The link is always provided in the description box below the video so that you can go back and watch the entirety of the thing. I always recommend that you do so. I normally do go back and watch the entirety of the podcast. For one, I am supporting the podcaster. I am bringing a little bit more knowledge of them, but it's to make sure that I understand the actual way the conversation winds up, because sometimes it takes a turn. When I did Destiny, it took a turn on me after we finished up, so I had to go back and amend the video in the description. I didn't make a new video. All of that being said, this feels like a fairly good fit, and he seems to be an ENFJ. He seems to be very much concerned about the ethics of the tribe, even if he doesn't necessarily understand them. He doesn't understand them because that bottom of the stack is holding him back. He is so caught up in these other people's thoughts that he really cannot even function, and he is missing so much of the organization and the way that things actually played out. There are nefarious characters, that is true. Sometimes nefarious things do happen, that is true. But most of the time, it is not because of them. Someone with a substance abuse problem probably died from the substance abuse problem. Now, when you find someone who has done things that are improbable, there's probably a nefarious character involved in that. And sometimes cover-ups include that. But the chances that some of the people that he listed were actually taken out by themselves due to having ingested the wrong things is more likely than somebody took out Prince, for example, for any reason whatsoever. It is more likely that his substance problem led to his substance death. He may have quit. He may have been 100% rehabbed, and somebody may have very well done that, but it is the least likely of the solutions to the problem. So the SI there really isn't SI. The thing that happened, you are believing, didn't necessarily happen. That is intentionally choosing the wrong thing. This was an interesting one for me because this is the extroverted version of me. I'm an INFJ. This is an ENFJ. And we both tend to get caught up in some conspiracy. So it was interesting to see this happen on the other side of the spectrum. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat difficult topic. We like to look into the minds of interesting people so that we can find examples of the way they think, so that we can see patterns of speech or behaviors that might give us some idea of ourselves. The distribution of the types is fairly regular. It may be a parietal distribution, but it's at least a bell curve, and it is not like super rare anywhere. Everybody has a spot, evolutionarily, that they fill by being one of these types. And it is important to have all of these types. You use the entirety of your stack all the time, but to varying degrees of effectiveness. And the point of this system is to increase the effectiveness of using the stack. You start at the bottom and work your way up so that your foundation is solid. When you start getting the thoughts correct and when you start getting the organization correct, the rest of it builds. For an ENFJ, it's different for other people. They need different foundations because people are different. We all think differently, even within the same stack. Different examples of an ENFJ will present differently, but the focus of ideas will be the same. The focus of old will be the same. The focus of external will be the same. Those are the things that we focus on. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pitt State. Peace.